includes the world's 3 billion rural people.
As a member joining us live from Washington, thank you very much for being present with us. My role is going to be to ask you just to live.
Thank you, President Macron, for hosting this forum, and that 1 in 4 people in our world lack access to clean drinking water at home. Why is it that 1 in 3 women in the world experience sexual or physical violence during her lifetime? Why is it that only half of the world has access to the internet? Why have we allowed so many of the world's children to go hungry when we know that we produce enough food to feed the entire world? We cannot be aware of these gaps and simply resign ourselves to them. We cannot accept them by thinking simply, this is what has always been and what will always be. We must instead agree that these growing gaps are unacceptable, and we must agree to work together to bridge them. And here, I want to be clear. This is not about charity. This is about our duty and what we owe to each other as human beings. This is also a strategic imperative. As I've said many times, our world is more interconnected and interdependent than ever before. A virus can spread globally in a matter of months. A hacker in one nation can shut down the critical infrastructure of another. Emissions anywhere can increase air pollution everywhere. In the 21st century, our fates are linked, as is our future. In the 21st century, our nations are interconnected, and our people are interconnected. And so, in the 21st century, addressing inequality is a strategic imperative for each of us, for our security and our health, our shared prosperity, and our collective future. All of which brings me back to this very moment. As we recover from this pandemic, from this crisis, we must challenge the status quo and build something better. As leaders of our world, we must rise to meet this moment, to get at the root of this challenge. We must look critically at the norms that are holding people back from achieving all that they can. To get at the root of this challenge, we must look critically at the long-standing systems and structures that are fractured and fissured. And we must fix them. First, by taking action at home, and second, by showing solidarity as a global community. For our part, the United States is committed to addressing our own systemic gaps. In fact, it has been a priority of our administration. Just before I traveled here, our Congress passed a landmark piece of legislation to make an historic investment in our nation's infrastructure. Another bill that will support our nation's workers and families and help us meet our climate commitment is poised to pass soon. Together, these bills are designed to lift people out of poverty, to put people to work in good jobs, and help bridge the gaps that persist in our nation. And as we make progress at home, we recognize our obligation to other nations around the world. To that end, we are doubling our climate funding for those nations hardest hit, pledging more than 1 billion vaccines worldwide, and sending development assistance to nations throughout the world. And we know there is more we can do and more we must do. But the fact remains, no single nation can take on inequality alone. A challenge this sizable and seismic demands that our world work together in solidarity. And we have seen what is possible when we do. Less than 2 weeks ago, our world joined together at the G20 summit in Italy, and there, leaders from nations that comprise 80% of global GDP agreed to the global minimum tax. This agreement will ensure that corporations, no matter how large, no matter how global, will no longer be able to avoid paying their fair share. And in so doing, it will give countries a greater ability to invest in their people. Now, to be sure, this is just one step, but it shows us what is possible when the world joins together. And we all remember, when the world joined together to issue a universal Declaration on Human Rights, we saw what is possible. When the world joined together to launch the International Space Station, we saw what is possible. When the world together eradicated smallpox, we saw what is possible. And I believe that in this pivotal moment, if we join together, there is no challenge that is too big for us to take on. So I will conclude with this. When we acknowledge what is happening in our world, what is actually happening in our world, and then ask ourselves why, we open ourselves up to the possibility that the future can be different, that the future can be better. And in that way, this question is a key to any progress, and it is critical to our shared future. So I challenge all of us here today, government leaders, business leaders, community leaders, let's continue to ask why, and then let's take action. There is the power of the people, and there are the people who are in power. And it will take all of us to meet this challenge. So as we go forward from this place, let us not be burdened by what has been. Let us focus on what can be. And let us realize a better future together. Thank you.
Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari.
Emmanuel Macron, President of France, Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Your Excellency Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. Pascal Lamy, President of Paris Peace Forum, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank President of the Paris Peace Forum, Mr. Pascal Lamy, for the invitation to share my thoughts on the importance of coordination among all actors in the fight against coronavirus pandemic. The coordination has to be total, and the objective has to be same, to deliver vaccines to the world. The state of vaccine delivery across the world leaves much to be desired. We have a situation where some countries are giving booster third doses for their citizens, when millions across the world, especially in the developing world, are yet to receive a single dose. Let us compare vaccination rates to give you an idea of the dimension of the problem. According to recent data, as of 4th November 2021, 91.3 doses of vaccine had been given for every 100 persons across the world. On the same date, however, only 14.7 doses of vaccine per 100 persons has been administered in Africa, a clear case of lopsidedness. According to Bloomberg, countries with the highest incomes are getting vaccinated 10 times faster than those with the lowest income. As of 5th November 2021, Africa had fully vaccinated 70 million persons, amounting to just 6% of the continent's population. By comparison, 60% of the European Union population had been fully vaccinated by September 2021. This massive gap between vaccine requirements in Africa and vaccine availability is undermining the fight against coronavirus pandemic in the continent. Even if Africa were to receive the 600 million doses of vaccine expected to be delivered to the continent by end of 2021, under the COVAX arrangement, there would still be a considerable shortfall when compared to the population of the continent, which currently stands at 1.383 billion. According to the World Health Organization, even the planned COVAX deliveries to Africa have been cut by 25% due to supply shortages and export bans. This is a major setback for Africa, where it is estimated that coronavirus vaccine deliveries have to increase from around 20 million doses a month to an average of 150 million doses a month if the target of fully vaccinating 70% of its population by September 2022 is to be achieved. So, what needs to be done to plug the gap? How can vaccine availability in Africa be boosted? Who needs to do what? Export restrictions that encourage needless hoarding of vaccines need to be lifted. We welcome the pledges by industrialized countries to share vaccines, but they should be fulfilled in a timely manner. We thank countries such as France that have donated vaccines to developing countries. Resolving supply chain constraints will require better coordination within the manufacturing process and between manufacturers and end users. There is a clear need for the expansion of vaccine production capacity in Africa. In this regard, African countries already have a roadmap. The pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa, developed in 2007 by the New Partnership for Africa's Development on the basis of an African Union summit decision taken in 2005. Licensing agreements should be reached with pharmaceutical companies for the transfer of intellectual property and technology to support the production of vaccines in Africa. If global vaccination is the only way to end the coronavirus pandemic, then all stakeholders must act in coordinated manner to plug the vaccine gap in Africa. I thank you for your attention.
President Buhari, thank you so much for those words, and that go to the heart of so much of what we're talking about today.
Majesté, Altesse Royale.
Majesties now, and thank you to all the leaders adopt effective multilateralism for an agenda to control weapons, for cooperation amongst superpowers, and to fight against the world disorganization, otherwise major conflict, which today are being prepared, tensions which threaten us every day, will delay these essential agendas I have just mentioned. We must, on arms control, on building peace that has to be reinvented, to fight against regional conflict, which we will be doing tomorrow with the African Union and the United Nations on Libya. We must also build new coalitions for regional conflict to build peace. I'm sure you've understood we've done a lot over the past year, but a lot remains to be done. So, all of you who believe in multinationalism and this new Paris consensus, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, merci infiniment.
Thank you, President. Thank you very
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.